fairyland is not a myth after all. It exists at Longwood, the estate of Mr. and Mrs. Pierre S. DuPont in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, where our cameras traveled for the premiere of the illuminated fountain, which can safely be called the most spectacular night displays on this continent, if not perhaps in the entire world. Spectators were afforded a splendid view of this kaleidoscopic play of color as jets of water mounted into the air and were wafted away in a rainbow mist. Each display is lighted with 5 colors: red, blue, green, amber, and white. But oh, just 5 colors can be combined to create a multicolored feast for the eyes. The fountain garden occupies a space of perhaps a city square, and the work of laying out the fountains and surrounding landscape has been in progress for the past 2 years. The Longwood Gardens of Mr. and Mrs. Pierre S. DuPont, already a byword for almost unimaginable beauty, have been given a fresh and immeasurably more elaborate charm with this new edition of this veritable fairyland of fountains. To grasp their beauty and grandeur, you must see it for yourself.
When Mr. DuPont turned this garden on first in 1931, people had never seen anything like that. People weren't used to seeing a lot of colored fountains back then. There had been a few, but nothing quite like this.
I remember Uncle Pierre said he had some new fountains to show people. We stood there with my mother and father and sisters, and it was so big you had to turn your head all the way one way and turn it around all the way the other way. And there's still fountains coming up and lights on them, and they shot way up in the air. It was just unbelievable.
Mr. DuPont really enjoyed the idea of the garden as theater. And of all the gardens at Longwood, this is the most theatrical. Longwood is about 1,077 acres. Of that, 5 acres are devoted to this particular garden, the main fountain garden. So it's one of the most complete collections of fountains in the country. It involves elements of architecture, being all this stonework, water being all the fountains, and a tremendous number of plants, the trees, the boxwood, the grass, everything. Together, it forms what I think is the most significant fountain garden in the United States.
The fountains have been working nonstop since 1931. We're really fortunate that the fountains have lasted as long as they have.
In many gardens, fountains are the first things to go. There's so much active elements there, the water coursing through the pipes and the pipes rusting and then breaking. So typically when you go to Europe and you see old gardens, it's a miracle if the fountains are working. And in many of those gardens, they have put a lot of concerted effort to restoring the fountains. So that's exactly what we're doing here.
It's the original fountain heads, jets, the original pumps, pipes. It's time to let her rest, so to speak, and bring her back to life.
This morning is a special morning to observe and watch the fountains for the last time before we shut them down for the next 2.5 years to begin this important revitalization.
I think that preservation is one of the only ways that we can make sure that what we have today is here for future generations. You know, preservation to me just has a lot of meaning. That connection that I can have to someone who built things 200 years ago or more, I think is wonderful. I'm like a doctor for masonry, essentially. I take what's old and dilapidated looking and fix it up and put a patch here, a patch there, and make it whole again.
We're recreating Pierre du Pont's 1930s garden, which he had sort of borrowed heavily from the mid-16th and later historic gardens of Europe. And there's this kind of collision of old and new, which is creating this real dynamism on the project.
With kind of a world now where you tear things down a lot and build new rather than trying to figure out ways to make it work, I think that figuring out the way to make it work is kind of a fun project and a challenge.
I physically went and touched and got to know every single piece of stone. There are 4,392 pieces of stone. I measured them, I photographed them, and I determined exactly what repair works was needed to each stone. And then that took about 6 months, and that was compiled into a 500-page book, which was then given to the contractors so that they could price and start the work.
The scope of this project is based almost 100% dismantle of the stone, which will then be created and brought back to our office in Conshohocken. On site first, we did some general cleaning, which included water misting and a light rinse and scrubbing of all the pieces of stone.
This is pretty much the first phase. We're bringing as much dirt and biological components to the surface. It's really neat to see what they did back then. Very just natural, done by hand, a lot of skill involved, a lot of labor involved. Makes you appreciate what you do now to help preserve it, so.
We have thousands and thousands of pieces. The biggest keyword on this project is organization. As we remove each piece of stone, we'll number it, we'll put a tag on it, and then we'll crate it. What's scary is making sure that everything, when we dismantle it, comes apart in one piece. It's scary and exciting at the same time.
Imagine Versailles being built today. People just don't build stuff like this anymore. We are not just going to make it look pretty again. After we disassemble the entire garden, we're just going to take the top of it and peel it right back, and then we're going to install all new infrastructure that's appropriate for the 21st century, that hopefully it'll bring another 100+ years of life to this fountain garden. It is by far the largest project we've ever done.
I'm the conductor. This is my orchestra. You hear the music? It's a beautiful sound, isn't it?
It's a major historical revitalization. It's going to be a huge undertaking. A lot of guys on site, major hauling and excavation, and just trucks after trucks running in and out with materials, deliveries coming in.
Oh, this is construction. You gotta love construction.
The connecting thread of this project is Pierre du Pont. A project like this is walking the tightrope, and you really have a couple of paths that you can take. You can have the long arm coming from the grave, and you could restore it perfectly in kind. You could create the exact garden again. That was not an option for us. If our founder was still around today, he would want to have the latest technology, the best technology, and he would want to explore the landscape in a way to improve it. Because he was so innovative, he wanted to be on the edge. We realized that we wanted to be on the edge with a reborn and revitalized main fountain garden.
Every time the question came up, what should we do? In the room where we had most of our meetings, there's a portrait of Pierre, and I point to that picture and I say, if Uncle Pierre were alive today, what would he do?
The first thing you would notice about Uncle Pierre was that he had no hair. The sun would shine off of the top of his head. And my mother said, well, that's his halo.
My great-uncle Pierre was a person of great focus.
The man had an incredible mathematical and scientific mind.
He certainly was skilled as an engineer, as a chemist, skilled as a financial planner.
With all the things he accomplished in his life, he was not a very overpowering, pompous kind of person. He was very quiet, shy.
There was the industrial side of him, the business side, and then there was the Longwood side. He was a fun man. He had a wonderful, dry sense of humor.
Had a touch of polio as a child, so that he sometimes would walk with a little bit of a limp.
Not very tall, a little bit round, very sweet face.
Cared about the community and had a very kind heart.
My father would talk about him as being kind of larger than life and full of respect and love.
Uncle Pierre was my hero.
Pierre Samuel DuPont is born January 15, 1870. He is the third of 11 children, the first boy, born to Lamotte and Mary Beglen DuPont. The DuPont family settles in Delaware and builds a prosperous enterprise out of the hazardous task of making gunpowder. Pierre's passion for fountains is awakened in Philadelphia when at 6 years old, he attends the 1876 Centennial Celebration. He's captivated by the water display he sees there. It's called the Great Cascade. It's a mini Niagara Falls system of pumps designed to demonstrate the sheer energy of hydraulic power. It is thrilling beyond anything he can imagine.
Pierre's father, Lamotte DuPont, was a big, strong man, a soccer player, a rugged individualist, and he felt that his sons should be the same. Well, Pierre wasn't, either in terms of his physical attributes or his mental disposition. What he really wanted to do was study the piano. So Pierre made a secret pact with his sister and said, tell you what, if I do this for you, will you let me take your piano lessons? And so they did, and they kept it from their father for some time.
Throughout his life, Pierre thrills to the sights and adventures provided by world's fairs and expositions that promote cutting-edge technologies and inspiring artistic environments. When he is 19, Pierre joins his brothers and sisters, his mother, and 2 maids on a grand trip to Europe. Their trip includes Paris, where they visit the famed Universal Exposition of 1889. They experience the debut of the Eiffel Tower and a fantastic outdoor fountain display.
So they used all the latest technology to light it, and the chronicles talk about how it was like diamonds and rubies and emeralds. So for 1889, this was pretty spectacular.
In 1893, Pierre is delighted by the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. The giant World's Fair boasts neoclassical architecture and huge pools with fountains. On either side of the central fountain, there are 2 smaller fountains that are electrically illuminated. These fountains provide the inspiration for colored water at Longwood. Pierre is inspired by the theatrical experience made possible by the marriage of art and cutting-edge science.
This was part of an overall trend of industrial exhibitions using the latest technology to illuminate water, using pumps to throw it up into the air, and then using electricity and arc lamps to color it. So it was an early form of fiber optics, and the public had never seen anything like it.
In 1901, Pierre visits the Pan American Exhibition in Buffalo, New York. And in 1904, he is wowed by a huge central pool with fountains, waterfalls, and fireworks at the Louisiana Purchase Exhibition in St. Louis.
The 2 things that he really loved were gardens and industrial World's Fairs, and he combined both of those at Longwood.
The most magnificent thing out there visually is sunlight. And the second most magnificent thing out there visually is water. Everything else is third class. To me, it's the inherent mechanical beauty of water and the fact that we all really do seek beauty. We're in Los Angeles. This is our design studio here at Fluidity. But we have a lot of other really wonderful, celebrated projects in places like Dallas or Dubai. But the main fountain garden is a one-of-a-kind, very special, very important project. Part of what makes it so rich and interesting is having inherited such a kind of noble beginning. What we're trying to do is, through the theater of the place, convey the magic of the garden. And there's a lot more to that than engineering. It's very technically challenging with really complex physical puzzles and has beautiful, elegant, artistic puzzles as well. It uses both art and science to get there, or more fundamentally, it uses aesthetics and physics. We try to make the display itself so fascinating that you forget those complications and you're just wrapped. We wanted to totally change the kind of images that the water could paint in space, from compositions to transforming motion objects. And we wanted to radically improve the color. It won't look like, a dime store electric sign. It's gonna look like a dragon rolling in a field, just dreaming. That's what it's gonna be like.
Pierre's attraction to the theatrical flowers at an early age. When his family moves to West Philadelphia to be closer to his father's new enterprise, the Rapano Chemical Company in Gibbstown, New Jersey, 12-year-old Pierre becomes friendly with a neighbor roughly his age, a boy named Frederick Parrish, soon to be known as the celebrated illustrator and painter Maxfield Parrish. Parrish creates a miniature papier-mâché stage, a foundation for their theatrical adventures, an affection Pierre retains and shares with others for the rest of his life. In 1884, a massive explosion tears through the Rapano Chemical Company. 5 men are killed, including Pierre's father. Lamont was 53. He left behind his wife, Mary, and 10 children. Pierre, just 14 years old, becomes the acknowledged head of the family, a helpmate to his mother and surrogate father to his siblings. From that moment on, his brothers and sisters, even his older sister Louisa, called him Daddy.
Pierre du Pont, above everything else, had a certain level of creativity. Much of what went into the building of the main fountain garden was new. There were pump systems that you could not find comparable anywhere at the time. He came up with an early 20th century technology to mimic 17th and 18th century water gardens he saw in Europe. And what we're doing here is coming up with 21st century technology to sustain his 20th century vision. We want to redesign, restore in the spirit of DuPont. We always ask ourselves, what would Pierre do? Historically, whenever there's a problem with the system, there'd be a breakage of any of the pipes, they would have to do all the maintenance from above.
When I started 27 years ago, there was no maintenance plan for the main fountain garden. If we had a problem underground, we were digging.
They'd excavate, they'd have to cut off that part of the garden, be very disruptive to the guest experience. The introduction of tunnels all underground allow maintenance and repairs to take place outside the view of the guest.
And you'll be able to go through a tunnel to service all the piping that's going to feed all the fountains. And these tunnels are precast concrete, roughly 12 foot by 12 foot, 8 feet long, weighing in excess of 60,000 to 70,000 pounds apiece. And they will go in like an erector set, one piece after another, locking together.
The tunnel system at the main fountain garden is really the backbone of the entire garden system. All the water piping, the electrical conduit, the propane lines will all run within this, and it provides the access point to all of the fountain services. These tunnels look very expansive, 15 feet wide. By the time we're done, the walkways may be 4 or 5 feet wide only because they'll be so full of equipment. So this whole thing is an interconnected underground network, which brings the main fountain garden into the 21st century.
Pierre graduates from William Penn Charter School in 1886 and enrolls in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His days are filled with chemistry, though he plays the piano nearly every night. Pierre graduates from MIT in 1890, well-trained in the ways of modern science and technology. His career at DuPont begins. He earns $80 a week as an assistant to the company's chief chemist and inventor, Francis Gurney. He stays for 9 years without a promotion and becomes frustrated by the lack of opportunity for advancement at DuPont. So Pierre takes a leap and moves to Ohio to become president of the Johnson Company, a steel rail producing firm in Ohio. But he doesn't stay away for too long. 3 years later, he joins his cousins, Alfred Irenae and Thomas Coleman, and they purchase DuPont. The new generation of leaders successfully transformed their family's century-old gunpowder business into a modern-day explosives empire.
Anytime there's a successful person in the world, history tends to rewrite the dialogue such that we all think that a sword was pulled out of a stone and it was ordained and he just did great things. It really wasn't that way. He took risk, he worked hard, success was not assured, but through the daily struggles, I mean, he really made something lasting.
I have recently experienced what I would formerly have diagnosed as an attack of insanity. Pierre jokes in a letter to a friend in 1906. That is, I've purchased a small farm about 10 miles from here. As I've always considered the purchase of real estate a sign of mental derangement, I fear that my friends may be looking for permission to inquire into my condition. However, I believe the purchase worth the risk, for my farm is a very pretty little place. This pretty little place is known as Pierce's Park, an arboretum of sorts. It's home to a significant collection of unusual trees, cultivated by brothers Joshua and Samuel Pierce in Chester County, PA. Pierre's purchase rescues Pierce's Park from a local lumber company, a defensive purchase to save the trees. Pierre, 36 years old, is still a bachelor, living at home with his mother. His days are dominated by the massive restructuring of the DuPont company, and his evenings are spent dreaming about his new property. He renames Pierce's Park Longwood.
In our today world, with computers and internet and apps, but also with the bombardment of commercial illusions, we are craving authenticity and for a sort of antidote.
Gardens are a constant rebirth. It's both relaxing and inspiring.
People want a place to be together, which is more pleasant, more pleasurable, more welcoming, and be a place where you share memories. I think that's why Longwood exists.
So Longwood is known for these spectacular gardens, really the wow factor. And the main fountain garden hasn't always been the most inviting space at Longwood. So we really fundamentally wanted to improve the guest experience in the garden and create this green oasis.
What's really interesting is that the original garden, it was really Mr. DuPont and his engineer, Phil Brewer. Two people making all of those decisions. So here it is, 2017, and it's taking an army of design professionals to make those decisions and to help guide our discussions.
I think as a landscape architect, there's very few projects like this where you get an opportunity to make something that's going to last generations and make so many people so happy. There are no constraints in the design of a garden. It can be fantastical and it can be experimental. For a project like this, which is very rooted in the legacy of an individual, there are some things which are, it's sort of clear where you want to go. You want to stay with the spirit of DuPont and adhere to what you knew his values were, but then there are things that we had to invent.
This fountain garden was made from concrete and grass and had railings. And so we thought we need to introduce a sort of French-style tactility. So it was a whole repertoire from crushed gravel, edges, stone, the water, hedges, trees, vegetation on the walls. They are very small changes, but together they make a relationship between American style and the French style.
And we made a conscious decision not to pick plants that bloom vividly. But what we want to do is use those plants to really highlight all the gorgeous architecture and not draw attention to itself, but enhance it.
You can have beautiful eyes, but then with eyeliner or with makeup, you can do something with it, which is not undermining the beauty of the eye, it's even lifting it. If we can do that with a fountain garden, then you have the same design, the same layout, but it is more dramatic.
I think the guest will enjoy the alley of trees. You're on the gravel path, you hear the crunch of the gravel, there's a beautiful bench that you can linger, similar to if you're walking through a park in Paris. I think it's going to be a totally different experience than it was in the past.
When people come to Longwood, I think they're looking for some peace and quiet. Today's world is so chaotic, and it's rare that you can go somewhere and just listen and take a deep breath.
It's a chance to look at beautiful things, to wonder how they developed them, to think about what you could do in your own backyard, to think about what you could do in your little city plot.
I've seen people down on their hands and knees with magnifying glasses looking into a flower. seeing what it is and why it is.
So it's inspiration and it's release.
A garden can be just a place of quiet enjoyment, or you can have performances and fireworks shows and fountains that bring them to life in unique and exciting ways. This site is large enough that you can do both at the same time.
It's really about bringing beauty into people's lives. I believe that that's a fundamental need. It's as important as the air we breathe and the water we drink.
I think my great Uncle Pierre would get no greater joy than seeing so many people, 1.4 million people in fact, enjoying Longwood every year. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. In this world of Instagram and Facebook, that people put down their phones for a moment and enjoy these incredible gardens.
It's a place to enjoy together. You want to saunter through, you don't want to rush through, you want to allow enough time to visit all parts of it. It's like going to a wonderful museum because there's so much to look at.
Longwood's a very unusual estate insofar as many people of his generation who had substantial resources built themselves very fancy gardens around them and what have you. But they were walled estates. They were for the enjoyment of the owners and the owners' friends and family. Pierre, on the other hand, wanted Longwood to be available to everybody. So from the get-go, this was a place for the enjoyment and education of the public. It was his wonderland, which he loved sharing with people.
Pierre du Pont was really involved in the design and choosing these pieces for his garden, and I kind of imagine how he would feel if he could walk around this workshop now and just sort of see what we're doing to them and see them close up again.
We've never had a project this large come back to our office. We have in total a little over 4,000 pieces of stone, and about 3,000 are in our shop. Being able to manage the amount of stones that are here is a lot of work. We're using a tracking system which has a QR code attached to it. And so each crate had that QR code attached. We were able to scan it when it left the job site. We're tracking when everything starts, the cleaning process and the repair process, and then when it gets packed up. So we actually have a list of dates that shows when everything was done to each piece of stone. Limestone varies throughout the world and the country, and this stone in particular has a lot of shell inclusions which make it deteriorate in unique ways.
We get a whole range of different types of decay, things that have shattered, things that have got very cold and wet and frosty and just exploded.
So really we have to evaluate the stones on an individual basis.
We're looking after Pierre du Pont's real personal vision. This is what he chose, down to the last detail. We're unfolding his story again.
The most rewarding part is being able to see the stone when it's repaired and cleaned. I don't think that anyone imagined that they would get this clean or that you'd be able to see this much detail on them, which was really unrecognizable before.
These are old friends. So how do you take care of that old friend and make sure that when they come back to the garden in 2 years' time, that they meet their old friend again and feel delighted?
This is a masterwork by Pierre du Pont, who was quite a thoughtful character. He had a vision. He was the author. He was not just the client. He arranged this. He thought about it. He proportioned it. He did tests with water. He didn't just engineer it. He skillfully laid out a composition that is masterful in its effectiveness.
I'm sure he would enjoy what everybody's doing right now. The design, the problem solving, the investment, the creativity, which is, I think, probably more valuable to him. It was doing the work that was fun work. Seeing people enjoy it was the ultimate goal, but I don't think he did it so he could sit back 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later and say, wow, what a wonderful show. I think he did it for the love of the work itself.
He loved the fountains, I think, because it was a combination of terrific technology and terrific art and display. I think he would be really thrilled at this new iteration of the fountains.
We're not changing anything about the original set piece. We're adding embellishments. We come up with this new kind of nozzle based on something we saw in Germany, which was a hoop of water, but these went sort of diagonally, and they made a twisted swirl. And the spray did not just convolute like this. The composite angle created a kind of a waistline of water. And so they have this kind of a bouquet. Pretty beautiful, actually, and it lights beautifully with all these crystal lines. And then there's another thing we've added to this, which is flame. And the flame is cool because it's not just like a torch. The fire comes up in tiny little bubbles in the jet, and so the flame is on top of a jet of water. It's like a primal dimension that should always have been here, but wasn't. So now we're gonna have fire. It has a theatrical presence, but it has a much deeper magical content about it.
Longwood's fountains have had 4 main control systems over the years. Now in 2017, we've started a new system called Synchronorm. It's from Germany, and it's the latest development for fountain control. It has the typical controls that you would turn pumps on and change the lights, but it also has a visualizer, a second screen that allows you to see in color and almost in 3D what the fountain show will look like in advance. The end result that I'm trying to get is kind of like an impressionist picture come to life. I've also thought of it kind of as being at the Russian Imperial Ballet and almost like a giant Fabergé Easter egg made out of water. There's just a lot of jewel tones as well as misty tones. The possibilities are endless.
It doesn't matter how many mock-ups you've done. It doesn't matter how much tests or calculation, how much drawings or studies or reflecting, thinking, it doesn't matter. When the thing turns on, it's astounding. The 1,000 things that are going on, little breezes and people jumping up and down, and the gloriousness of it, it is astounding. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And with hope, I'm not ruining it by talking about it. But it should make people cry. It will be so awesome. It should make people cry.
Pierre works tirelessly for much of his young professional life. He does find time to relax, attending countless dinners, plays, and concerts with his cousin, Alice B. Lynn. Their friendship matures, and in 1915, Pierre and Alice marry. His professional life reaches a new peak that same year when he is named president of the DuPont Company. Pierre leads the company through the most critical period in DuPont's history, as it transforms from a small family firm into a large modern corporation and earning profits that reach undreamed of levels.
He envisioned the modern corporation to envision an organization that invested in raw research and development to create Kevlar, nylon, Tyvek, and many other things. The creativity of that, the ability to envision and then create. He did it again and again and again throughout his lifetime. His talents, I think, probably shouted at the world, maybe in the way we look at Bill Gates today.
During the same years that Pierre supervises DuPont's huge wartime expansion, he is asked to rescue General Motors from financial ruin.
Then to be successful again in relatively short order in rescuing General Motors, as a business person, to do it once is a lifetime's achievement. To do it twice is unbelievable.
Along with great wealth, Pierre's impressive record of success in corporate America invites great stress as well, including family fights, lawsuits, and challenges from the federal government. Through it all, he always has Longwood and Alice. Many of the inspirations for the design of Longwood Gardens come from the experiences that Alice and Pierre share.
In 1910, he went to Italy, and he decided to invite Alice Beeland, who would become Mrs. DuPont, and it was in Italy that he visited 7 villas, including the Villa d'Este in Tivoli, outside Rome. The Villa d'Este is probably the most famous fountain garden in the world. It was created in the 16th century by a cardinal who practically dug up the town in order to bring the water through underground reservoirs and aqueducts through the town to his garden. And it was there that he said it would be nice to have something like this at home. And then 3 years later, he was back in Italy for a much larger trip. They visited 22 different villas, including the Villa Gambaraia, which would provide inspiration for the Italian water garden here, and the Villa Gori, which provided the inspiration for an outdoor theater at Longwood. And then finally, in 1925, he visited France with the Garden Club of America. This was after World War I. They had access to many private chateaux and gardens that had not been opened publicly before. These were the huge French gardens like Versailles and Vaux-le-Vicomte and Correns.
Pierre du Pont came to visit gardens in Europe because he was studying all the big gardens before creating the fabulous Longwood Garden.
He got to see there how they used water, how they would build reservoirs on hills that provided gravity-fed fountain displays.
He visited, he probably talked quite a long time with my great-grandfather about the technical problems, but he certainly, the most important thing, he looked at the garden and sort of imagined what would inspire him for the Longwood Garden. The garden created by Le Nôtre was a composition of green grass, alleys, and water. Here, there's a sort of harmony between the quantity of grass and water. The magic of water adds to the pleasure of a garden. They did it for the pleasure of the eye, for the movement, and the contrast between still waters and cascades and waterworks which filled up all the pools with movement. The waterworks is a pleasure added to the visit. It's a surprise. Oh my God, look, the water, and here again and there.
Pierre was a very simple person and he was very shy. But in his gardens, he was very theatrical. And that's exactly what he liked about Italian and French gardens. They're very theatrical. The spectator almost becomes an actor in a setting. And nowhere in any American garden is that more true than at Longwood. All of his life, Pierre was involved in business. So what's amazing is that he found the time to pursue his design of Longwood, which he did himself. He was Longwood's basic landscape architect. He had used landscape architects when he first started out. He did not care for their work, so he bought a couple books, started doing landscaping himself. And Longwood certainly reflects his ability as his own designer, which is kind of unusual for these great estates. There are two main periods in the construction of the main fountain garden. First, the main conservatory was constructed from 1919 to 21. It overlooked a large field, and Mr. Du Pont decided, well, I need some landscaping out here. So he did some initial landscaping with boxwood and large trees very close to the conservatory. And then it sat like that for a number of years. He went on to build the Italian water garden and the open-air theater enlargement. Finally, in about 1928, he decided to finish the area in front of the main conservatory, and this was to be the main fountain garden. So in addition to the existing landscaping, he added much more landscaping. He would move in trees that were 70 feet tall. He bought a boxwood that was 80 feet in circumference and cost $8,250, which was a lot of money back then. And so he planted over 500 mature trees and shrubs over basically a 5-year period and spent several $100,000 on the landscaping. He was 60 years old. He couldn't wait for young plants to mature, so he would bring in mature trees. What he got was an instant garden. Most of those trees are still there and provide a much larger backdrop than even when the garden first opened. And what's important about the garden is that you have this water, but it's all surrounded by green, the green of turf, boxwood, and mature trees. So the green backdrop makes the water actually show up even better than it would otherwise. This was sort of the culmination of his life's work in garden design. Pierre was very involved in all the aspects in the construction of the main fountain garden, particularly in the stonework. When it came to the carved stone, he worked with the supplier in Italy, Olivati, and their chief designer, Piero Morsaletto. They would send all the designs over. He would accept some, he would reject some. He spent a great deal of time worrying about the ornamentation of the garden.
A Longwood il nonno si è occupato di tutte quelle parti di ornato. Quando c'è stato l'incontro fra lui e Mr. Pierre du Pont, la richiesta è stata di disegnare e realizzare i giardini in stile italiano.
Per anni, diciamo, ha dovuto spedire navi, container di statue, di vasi, di fontane, di colonne, di tutto. Prevalentemente erano opere finite, però sappiamo che in parte le parti, diciamo, le composizioni andavano spedite grezze e poi una volta collocate e posate rifinite in situ. Beh, era la bottega più importante, quella del nonno. Lui è arrivato ad avere, per riuscire a portare a termine questa scommessa, circa 100 scalpellini. Però non è stato un problema perché il bacino, comunque Veneto, all'epoca si iniziava a bottega a 10 anni, 12 anni, e insomma il personale adatto a portare a termine.
La caratteristica di questa pietra, in particolare la bianca, che è quella in questione, è proprio che è scolpibile, malleabile. La pietra ben si adatta da tantissimi anni a queste realizzazioni. Quindi è un po' anche una magia.
È tenera quando è bagnata, però poi in esterno subisce una trasformazione per cui diventa molto dura. E infatti è una pietra non geliva, quindi era anche idonea all'uso in quel clima.
Longwood's always had a tradition of having something that's unpredictable. You turn the corner and you find something you don't expect.
Grottos are otherworldly. They're a place of retreat. They hark back to the Homeric cave. They were used by emperors and also by hermits, so they crossed the cultural and social divides historically. There's spaces of magic. Nymphs might live here. It might be religious.
There are grottos in Europe and other parts of the world where it's almost as if the devil is coming out from the center of the earth. And so they're kind of spooky and eerie, but also beautiful and inspirational. And so we've created a grotto that is unlike others in the world in the fact that it's new in the 21st century. We had this wonderful opportunity because we were going to blow out and excavate the entire original pump house. So we had this open canvas, and it was wonderful because we could do it behind the original wall.
We wanted to design the grotto, whereas it was not very evident, but as you got close to it, you saw these two small openings in the pump house wall, and if you happen to wander into those, you turn the corner.
And you will descend into a very different world, and you'll hear the water movements as you come down into the grotto, and then the chamber will open up before you. There'll be some very concealed light sources which will feel very intimate and magical. We will have this very large circular water curtain which falls from the heavens. And there's a sense that the water that's cascaded down the garden toward the grotto is then closed in its loop. It's back to its aquifer, and it's the sort of termination and the source for water in the garden. We really studied those historic grottos that Pierre du Pont would have seen, Villa d'Este, Vaux-le-Vicomte in France in particular. In studying those, we kind of came up with the shapes, and then the next layer for us was to make this specific to its location at Longwood. Grottos are about rock, they're a heavenly cave. So we did a lot of exploration about the geology around Longwood, and that really informed how we treated the interior with this local stone, this mica stone, which has this sparkle to it.
A piece of stone is not just a piece of stone sitting on the ground. The stone has life in it. I can feel it.
It's a building material that's been around since the beginning of time. The very oldest of buildings were stone. And I think that's probably the charm of it.
Most of the stone comes from here, from the Amico quarry.
They were trying to look for a grade of stone that would give them a really old feel, and the mica does that. This has got a lot of fleck and sparkly stuff in it.
It's not easy to find the texture, what it makes it look pretty old. That's what it makes the difference on this type of stone.
Well, in the afternoon like now, there'll be quite a bit of light in here, but early morning, maybe later in the evening, it'll be a really kind of a darker, neat feel. And when they have night events and they open this up, and the lighting will be spectacular.
People who've been coming to Longwood for decades will think, hopefully, that, gosh, was that grotto always there? When it's going to be an entirely new and different experience.
We've taken all these pieces of stone apart. Now we have to fit them back together over new concrete structures that sit below them, and making sure that coordinates with all the lighting and the tiles and all the other new things in the planting. It's a really exciting, but also challenging phase. We're trying to put this jigsaw puzzle back together.
The night belongs to something magical. You need something at night that you don't have during the day. It's in our bodies, it's physiological. And the night is there to remind us that we belong to a larger universe. I founded l'Observatoire International, which is a lighting design company. Like I say very often to my team, we are storytellers. It's like writing a movie, and the light is a great actor. It's how we orchestrate different type of light to create like an emotion, a surprise. It should talk to your heart, talk to your sense. We're lighting in a very subtle way all the architecture and the basins. Try to hide the lighting as much as I could, having light fixture under the bench for the path, light suddenly the trees so they don't become like too artificial. At night, all those little details of architecture can be magnify. During the day, the light comes down. At night, the light comes up. The visitor don't always see this detail, which is great because it gives them the opportunity of coming during the day and coming back at night to see something else.
It's been a construction site for a long time. Lighting is kind of the final little piece of the project that puts it all together for the evening experience. It's a beautiful time to kind of see the balance. You know, you start to see the highlights that the lighting can bring out. We call it the blue moment, which is a time period after the sun has gone down and the sky starts to transform and go through these beautiful shades of indigo. And it's essentially like a crossfade between daylight and electric light. People are really, really encouraged in this new design to really enter the garden. Lighting, in our view, in the evening is part of that invitation to explore, not just see something from a distance, but really get up close and personal and touch the water and discover some of these really special places that are our little hidden gems.
I like to keep the spirit of the mystery of the night. This place has a life during the day and should have a very different life at night. Having like mysterious moments where not everything is evenly lit to give sense of a little bit more depth.
It's a little bit emotional for the first time when you see your project, when it's getting built and realized like this. You see how it looks like, you know, from the drawing, from the imagination, from everything you've been dreaming about, and now it's alive, it's here.
I'm from France, and I remember my early age, my parents taking me to Versailles. In the summertime, you had the beautiful water show. It was fabulous. And the memory I have bring some of those sensations here. You always remember the emotion and what you felt. It never leaves your mind, it doesn't leave your body. You always feel it.
I couldn't sleep very much. I've been waiting for this day for years, and suddenly it's here. We had one chance to get this right, knowing that this was going to live beyond any of us that are involved in it right now. Striving for the highest quality was without question. What's so remarkable about this project is that it looks very simple. I compare it to almost like a ballet. It's so beautiful and it just flows. What people don't see is the hours and hours of daunting practice, tears and blood that have been shed on every little movement that ballet dancer has made. Anything that you see in this project, hundreds and thousands of decisions and discussions have been made behind every detail. And it's those details that make Longwood special. That's one of the reasons this project has taken 6 years. Everything that we had hoped and dreamed, it is really happening. It's like nothing you have ever seen before in your life.
Wow. I was just blown away by the whole thing.
It was absolutely spectacular.
Loved it. It was vibrant, beautiful.
Excellent.
I was expecting like a 10, and it ended up being like a 20.
When we first came here, I noticed how lively the fountains were. They kind of greeted us when we walked by and shooting up and splashing us with water.
If you just close your eyes and listen to the water, it feels like a different time and a different place.
Sort of like ancient Greece or something.
I was thinking of being a little kid running through the sprinkler.
There was a visceral happiness.
It makes you feel alive.
We look around and just stare in awe.
All the colors in the rainbow.
The colors, it was so vivid.
I didn't expect to see fire on the water.
The flame jets. Oh my gosh.
I have no idea how that's possible, but it was awesome.
It was really poetic at times and then very powerful.
I love the swaying. It looked like it was like backup dancers on a stage.
It makes me want to sing and dance.
I've been coming here since I was a little kid, and it's a brand new memory.
And brought everybody together to share an experience that everybody enjoyed.
The thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that we were bold enough to do it.
I never want somebody to say, oh, I've been to Longwood, I don't have to go back. And so we have to keep changing. We have to keep thinking about what the visitor of 20 years from now is going to appreciate, because heavens knows we're not going to replace those fountains again for another 100 years or maybe 150 years the way they've been built.
It was without a doubt our founder, Pierre du Pont's vision. He wanted it to be beautiful. He wanted to have extraordinary plants and displays grown here. And he wanted people to have fun. And he wanted people to be inspired.
If Uncle Pierre were alive today, he would look at those people and hear those people laughing and enjoying themselves and think to himself, yes, we've done it. And we've done it right.